Ready, set, go!
Registration is now open for the Middle States Commission on Higher Education 2023 Annual Conference. It's in Philadelphia, December 4th through 6th, 2023, setting the standard transformation through accreditation. You don't want to miss it. Register now at msche.org.
Surprise!
We're taking the EdUp Experience podcast to Insights EDU. Join us for an incredible higher education marketing and enrollment management conference, February 20th to 22nd in Phoenix, Arizona. Register now at insightsedu.com and use promo code EdUp to save $50 off your registration. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we do what? You know what I'm going to say. We make education your business. We've been doing it for nearly 4 years. This coming January, over 700 episodes. I can't believe it some days. Over 330,000 downloads. We wrote a book. We're podcasting live at conferences across the country to bring an element of excitement and fun to sometimes a boring conference. If you've been to a conference in higher ed, sometimes it leaves a little to be desired. So we come and we podcast and we bring people on live. And we go crazy. We bring the sound effects. I'm going to play the sound effects. I spend time actually standing here at my recording station downloading new sounds. And something just hit me because my guest co-host today has an incredible accent. So I feel like I need to take out snippets of my guests and turn them into sound effects. I didn't think about that before. It just hit me. And I think he's got the right voice for it. Who am I talking about? You know him. You've heard him. He's doing incredible work. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. He is Mr. Nuno Fernandez. He is the president of the American Public University System. Nuno, welcome back to an EdUp microphone.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and it's a pleasure being here today.
See how nice that accent is? Just makes you want to talk. I want to hear you more, Nuno. That's why you're going to talk so much.
I'll try my best.
Say good stuff so I could turn it into sound effects, by the way. Are you excited for this conversation for our guest today?
Absolutely. 100%.
A little bit of a world view, if you will. We're gonna add a little bit of a global view to this conversation that we have here on EdUp.
Going back to my European roots.
European roots. Here we go. There's the hint. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today, here she is. She is Professor Dame Madeleine Atkins. She's the president of Lucy Cavendish College. Madeleine, welcome to the microphone. How are you?
Thank you very much. We're just fine over here, and it's a real pleasure, indeed a privilege, to be on this podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. I love going across the pond, if you will, to talk about what's happening in the UK. But I do want to ask you first, because I had to look it up this morning, and I was blown away by the title of Dame and what that means. So I want to ask you about that first. What does that mean when we introduce you as Professor Dame?
It just means I have received a public recognition for work done almost entirely for and in the university sector here in the UK.
Right, and it's a recognition by whom and how? Because it's so cool, I just want you to say it.
You receive these honors from a member of the royal family.
That's amazing. Congratulations. That's so cool. We want to talk about Lucy Cavendish and the work that you're doing there. Start by laying the groundwork for us. What do you do at Lucy Cavendish? How do you do it? Who do you serve? Give us a lay of the land, if you will.
Oh, thank you. So Lucy Cavendish College is one of the 31 colleges that make up the University of Cambridge. So we're a Cambridge college. And we were established in 1965, and we have a mission, a DNA, if you will, that is to open the Cambridge University door to students of considerable potential and talent who are coming from communities that are underrepresented or historically excluded, or in some other way have not had equality of opportunity to apply for Cambridge and all that stands for. So that's our mission, our DNA. First chapter, we opened particularly for women of what is nicely called mature age. And that was because they had virtually no places at Cambridge University at that time for all sorts of reasons. They had been denied opportunities to go to college when they were in their teens, and Cambridge was full of men's colleges. now we're into chapter 2, and we decided in 2018 that we would open the door much further to all underrepresented groups, regardless of gender and from the age of 18. And we set out on a growth trajectory to achieve that, and in our UK student body to be broadly representative of UK society. That's our aim. Does that give you some background?
Yeah, I love it. And I guess the first question I have based on that, and then I'll pass it to you, Nuno, to take over. In 2018, which is not that long ago, you go with an intention to open up the doors, so to speak. That comes with certain infrastructure changes, doesn't it? We want to bring in more men. We want to bring in more students of color. Can you talk about how that transition actually happened? Because that's pretty rare. We hear about that in the US where 100 years ago it was women's college and then it shifted. And then we obviously have colleges that are all women, but in a recent history, I haven't heard of a school make that type of a transition. What did that do to your strategic plan, to your infrastructure, the way you had to conduct your operations?
So the important point that I will repeat is that this is our DNA through and through. This is not a change of what motivated the foundation of the college in the first place. And that's really important to us, that building the future from the historical past, absolutely vital. And it means that you take with you the vast majority of your alumni because they understand where you're coming from, that this is not a fundamental change, but this is a 21st century adaptation of founding principles. We grew with is the easy answer. We grew from just under 400 to now 1,000 students. Now that allows you to make these changes in your admission and to thrive on that basis. We grew with the blessing of the university and the other colleges. And of course, we've had to build another building or two. We have had to hire more staff and so on. But essentially, it's a step change function. And as you will know, if you're growing a higher education organization, and obviously you plan for that. And so we have. So we are now at 1,000 students this year.
Epic.
Yeah, it can stress out the system sometimes too. If you grow quickly, you go, oh, we've got to do this, or, oh, we've got to do that. That's part of it in hiring people. Can you hire them fast enough? So scale, and you more than doubled your population over that time. That's pretty incredible. So congratulations. I would imagine you have a great team around you to achieve this.
Oh, absolutely. And also the students themselves who came in as the first cohort, if you will, under the new policy for admissions. They were fantastic, as has been the second, as has been the third. And in a sense, they joined that pioneering spirit. They wanted to show that, yes, this was the college with the greatest diversity, fantastic inclusion, and a sense of belonging. And those three things matter very deeply to us. We spend a lot of time working on that. I don't think one ever completely finishes that job. I think it's always a work in progress, and it's incumbent on all of us all of the time. But the students themselves have just been absolutely fantastic. And of course, we grew at the postgraduate level as well as the undergraduate level. And the university itself wanted more college places for postgraduates. So they were more than happy to see us expand. And in a sense, the teaching of postgraduates is not done by the colleges. It's done by the academic departments in Cambridge. And so the expansion there is much more on the academic departments to plan and cater for. The undergraduates, on the other hand, that does impact the teaching in the college. We do half the teaching, pretty much, of undergraduates in college. Half is done in academic departments. So there, yes, we absolutely had to plan carefully and make sure we had the teams in place that we needed, expanding the pastoral team, expanding various other teams, from housekeeping and porters through to actual supervisors and directors of studies.
Before I pass it to Nuno, I have to tell you, Madeleine, that he did message me this morning, Nuno, and he said he had incredible questions for you. So I want to set him up properly.
Prepare to be astonished.
All right, now
Well,
you can
I
go,
don't know
Nuno.
about incredible, but I'll try my best. First of all, congratulations. It's incredible to see a university like Cambridge being involved in these efforts. right? And I understand them very well because Joe knows my story, but my parents were first generation, so I understand very well the transformative power of education for families and for people that are usually left out of the system, right? So it's incredibly impactful. At APUS, we have about 40% of students from diverse backgrounds. So we also have a lot of efforts, continuous efforts to promote diversity and inclusion inside our university. 40% of them, at the moment, around the percentage we have. But the question I wanted to ask, Madeleine, is in the US at the moment, there are a lot of discussions in the media about the value of a degree, of a higher education degree, right? Some people question the value. Some people argue that the value is actually higher today than it was in the past. In the UK, are you having the same discussion? And what is your perspective in terms of the value of a degree today? Is it more or less equal of what it was 10 years ago? And how do you see that value 10 years from today?
I think those are really important questions. And yes, they are also being considered here in the UK, and I would say more broadly in Europe too. I don't think there is any one straight or overwhelmingly obvious answer. I think a lot depends on the individual student and their circumstances. You made the point in your own personal background, how transformative these opportunities are if taken. 1 in 4 of our students at the college is first in family to go to college. 45% identify as non-white, and so on. And I think one has to understand and accept and respect the view of them, their parents, their extended families, that yes, indeed, to succeed as first generation, second generation immigrant into this country, this is one way in which to do just that. And I fully respect that and understand that, and there's a long history of the effectiveness of that. I don't think necessarily that college is for everyone. And again, I worry if young people are regarded as second rate because they haven't gone to college. That doesn't seem to me to be socially a good place for a country to be either. That there is a them and us established from the age of 21 or something. That's quite divisive. The group most absent from our universities in the UK is young white men from low-income backgrounds. They are the most absent group of all demographics or cross-cutting demographics. And I think we should, as a country, be very concerned about that, actually. So coming to why do students choose to apply to us, and the various ways we support them, of course, but it's partly because a degree, and particularly we find they want to study the STEM subjects, the science, technology, engineering, maths, medicine. A degree is the way in, not only to those professions, but probably into the new professions opening up in these new sectors, which we can just see now on the horizon, or indeed have almost arrived, and where machine learning is beginning to have an impact outside of straight computer science, but into application, where new advances in understanding brain-body connections is taking us, where we need to move beyond planting trees to really consider the technologies that we're going to need for climate change.
Nailed it.
So I think it's entirely reasonable for people to want to have a degree for a number of motivations, but I worry when somebody is regarded as thick because they haven't been to college.
Of course. And on that note, Madeleine, universities like Cambridge, which I would categorize as being among the best in the world in terms of reputation and prestige, they are the Ivy League of the UK. I think you call it the Russell Group, right, in the UK? The Russell Group, so which is the Ivy League comparable. Some of these brands before COVID, they were not very open to online education. Not all, but some universities, very traditional universities, for reasons that are easy to understand. They were not very open to online education. Then COVID came along, and that transformed everything in a matter of 2 weeks. And then some universities after COVID, they went back to their kind of original line of thinking of being purely on campus. And some of them became more hybrid, if you will, offering both modalities. Where do you stand on that? And where does Cambridge stand on that?
Two different questions there. May I give you an example which very much follows your thesis? In COVID, in our college, of course, we switched online, and we discovered that certain kinds of learning were well supported and some less. And we decided, as towards the end of COVID, although we didn't know it was the end of COVID then, but towards the end of COVID, and now we continue, that our outreach to communities and schools in low-income areas and in the most disadvantaged areas of this country was best conducted online. And so we set up what is a unique program for young people aged 17 in the penultimate year of high school, in your terms, who had, according to their teachers, great potential, but maybe the school didn't have the expertise to really expand on that potential. The school was coping with 101 difficult issues, often of a social welfare nature rather than of a true educational nature or conventional educational nature. And often these young people were looking after younger siblings at home. They might be in single parent family. They were working themselves. And so we had to start with their lifestyle, with where they were. And we reckoned the best way to do that was indeed to have an online outreach program, which raises educational attainment. It's not about aspiration raising. Loads of others could do that. This is about making sure that they get the grades at the end of high school that they are capable of, and they make a really compelling application to hard to get into universities. And we work with them for a whole year, from an August right round to the following August. We stream them into arts and humanities on the one hand, sciences on the other, math, science, those looking to do medicine on the other. And we engage academically with them online every fortnight, and they have peer group sessions, and we do a lot of careers work with them. And tracking that, we've now done this for 3 years, tracking those cohorts, the results, I have to say, have pleased us. Something like 98% of them have got into the Russell Group universities that you've just mentioned, the sort of equivalent of the Ivy League without the endowments.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, without the endowments. And that is a result that's really pleasing. And of those that did apply to Cambridge, not just to our college, but to any of the colleges that take undergraduates in Cambridge, we doubled the offer rate. So 40% of those who applied got an offer of a place at Cambridge. The normal average offer is 17%. So there's an example for me of the power of online when done well and structured properly and based on real research as to what makes for effective learning over time. There's one example. Now, do I think, and what does Cambridge do? We have Cambridge Advance Online. We have all sorts of online programs in the university, sometimes run by academic departments, sometimes by our Institute of Continuing Education, sometimes B2B for business leaders, sometimes B2C, and so on, all over the place, lots of it. Right. But for most people, I think, they would say a Cambridge education in their minds is that 8 intensive weeks of living and learning together in an immersive environment where you are expected to produce 1, 2, 3 essays every week, where you're in small group teaching, really testing your intellectual development. And that really is quite hard to do, we found, online in the same, obviously it wasn't in the same way, but it doesn't have quite the same intensity of intellectual engagement online.
Tell them like it is.
That's a really interesting conversation, and that we talked about this before we started recording a little bit, Madeleine. That's morphed itself here in the U.S., the online conversation, into workforce and skills, and it goes together with the value conversation. And what the UK does very well is this 3-year bachelor's degree. And I'm not talking about a US 4-year bachelor degree in 3 years where you get no breaks and you get in 3 years. I'm talking about a 3-year bachelor's degree. And as I said, we just had the first university college here in the US get that approved through one of our accrediting bodies as a pilot. But this is like table stakes in the UK, isn't it? The 3-year degree it's been there, it's offered, it's the dominant mode that students are taking. Can you talk about the 3-year degree? What would happen if you put a 4-year degree in for some students, or do you have 4-year degrees still? Can you talk about that difference in the UK versus US?
You're right. The normal length of a bachelor's degree, whatever it's called, BA, BSc, whatever, is 3 years, has been historically like forever. And that's partly because our high school leaving exams, the A levels, the advanced levels, as they're called, a student will only be taking 3 subjects for the last 2 years of high school, maybe 4. So they come with a pretty narrow and pretty deep academic background and knowing what subject they want to take. And therefore, you move into a 3-year course, which does not start by assuming students don't know really what they want to do. We don't have majors and minors in the same way that you do, for example.
I can also comment on that, Madeleine, because what Joe was describing, there's a small group of universities in the United States that is engaged in creating this college in 3, we call it, right? It's
College in 3.
A 3-year program. And we have universities like Georgetown University. An American public university system is one of these universities that is part of this group that is trying to get these pilots approved. And each university has a different program. In our particular case, it's a cybersecurity program that we're trying to launch, as opposed to, we already have the 4-year version to launch the 3-year version. But in Europe in general, I believe the 3-year bachelor's, what would be the equivalent to a bachelor's, is the norm. And then in some countries, you even have the 3+1, which is in 4 years, you get the bachelor's and the master's.
Sure, which is us too.
Yeah.
I think you asked what would happen if we went to a 4-year pattern. Now, on the STEM subjects, particularly the natural sciences and mathematics and so on, most universities, certainly in the Russell Group, will do a 4-year program, and you finish with a master's in chem, masters of chemistry, MPhys, masters of physics, and so on. And that is a straight through program. I say straight through. Usually the choice is made at the end of the 2nd year, whether the student wants to finish at the end of the 3rd or whether they want to do the 3rd and 4th year. 4th year tends to be big project, often linked to industry or with a practical application. So that is well established, and it qualifies as for undergraduate government loan funding for that 4th year.
I like that.
And the funding regime in relation to these choices is hugely important.
Epic.
Should you register for the Middle States Commission on Higher Education annual conference this December 4th through 6th in Philadelphia?
100%.
I agree, because the title of the conference is called Setting the Standard, Transformation Through Accreditation. There is no time like the present to explore opportunities in higher education and the future for our students and our business model. Get out and network with your peers this December 4th through 6th at the Middle States Commission on Higher Education Annual Conference.
Attention.
Are you ready to elevate your institution's marketing and enrollment strategies? Join the EdUp Experience podcast at the Insights EDU Conference, February 20th to 22nd in Phoenix, Arizona. Don't miss out on this opportunity to hear from engaging speakers from industry-leading companies like Google, LinkedIn, Adobe, and higher ed leaders. Learn the latest marketing and enrollment strategies to grow your programs. Register now at insightsedu.com and use promo code EdUp to save $50 off your registration.
Attention.
I want to shift just 1 second, and I want to talk about leadership for a minute. One of the phenomenon that we have here in the U.S. is that presidents are the number of years that somebody is spending in a presidency of a college or university is declining rapidly. I think it's down a year and a half. It was at 5 and change, 6, and it's down to 4, somewhere around there. I don't have the exact, those are exact numbers, actually. It's somewhere in there, somewhere in the middle. But it's declining. So we're seeing presidents of universities move on quickly. We're seeing, because the business model is stressed for a lot of small private colleges in the U.S., a lot of presidents are being poached because they're proven leaders. And so institutions are not taking a lot of risks. How have you found it as a president? What's the secret, Madeleine, to staying power in a college and university presidency?
So that's a hard question. Again, context is often everything here. I can't tell you right now what the average length of a vice chancellor or president of a university in the UK is, but it's more, I would hazard a strong guess, it is more than 4 years, more likely 6 to 7. A couple of points. It's become much more common for the board of trustees, the council, whatever the governing body is, to stipulate a length of term. If you go back 30 years, that wouldn't necessarily have been the case, but now that is quite normal. So that has had some impact, I think, on the rate of turnover. On a personal level, I would say it's finding the fit between the individual who is looking for a senior role, senior executive role of this kind, what it is that the community in that organization wants to see done, to see happen, and a sense from the governing body, the trustees, whoever. And of course, in the UK, we have no state or government interference in, sorry, that's an unkind phrase. The state does not appoint the presidents of universities in the UK. So the board is hugely critical in the appointment, and the board having confidence that the person they wish to see coming in is going to be able to do the job, or that there are ways they can see of supporting that person to be really effective. It might be with some more vacancies in the senior team. It might be mentoring somebody who's much more experienced, not actually in that institution. It may be through particular kinds of training, whatever. There is, I think, much more of a sense now than there used to be that you don't just sink or swim. That really isn't terribly sensible, that the board needs to work pretty closely with the president, the vice chancellor, to chart the next steps and to make sure that the conditions and the context are as good as possible for that to work. And for some people, some organizations just would never be right, and others would be absolutely fine. So I don't think there's an overall kind of magic formula or an AI algorithm that would enable you to select your president on an AI basis. Now, I'll be proved wrong next week, probably, on that one. But yes.
Do I look like I know what a JPEG is?
That's my AI sound effect there.
Yeah, Joe mentioned something important, Madeleine, which is in the US, many institutions are under a lot of pressure because of declining enrollments.
Yes.
The market itself, we don't have the data from 2023, but the market itself has been either stable or declining, certainly not growing. And that creates a lot of pressure, especially in smaller institutions that are fighting literally for survival. Do you have a similar effect in the UK? No.
No, we don't. We have a rising 18-year-old population from now until pretty much the mid-2030s. And
Wow.
by rising, substantially rising, the pressure is the other way. It is, can we make places available for the demand? Should we make places available for the demand? Can we speed up the expansion of those subject areas which are most in demand? And what does all this do from the government's point of view for the bill for student loans? So there's a whole lot of intersecting factors, but behind it, we do not have the major issue that you are facing. And I guess it really won't impact us until the mid-2030s.
No way!
That's just, I think we've been living in this world for so long. It's hard to imagine that. And I'm just going, oh, wow, that sounds so exciting. I'd be so excited to plan for something like that, because the planning is, I think we're proactively trying to plan for a reactive situation, which is just less. And then you're going, what do we need to do to keep enrollment up, knowing there's just less people? It's a very different kind of mindset. And it makes you, I don't want to say thinking into the negative, but it makes you really plan your business at every level, whether you want to or not. And I think what's happening in the U.S. is a lot of schools are not planning right. And so we see closures, right? We have schools close, one a week, it seems like, or a couple a month. We have, I don't know, maybe around 3,800 to 4,000 financial aid granting schools here from the government that grant aid. So we've got a lot of colleges, and we're just seeing a lot of them close. And you just go, whoa, what happens to all these people and the jobs and students? And so it's a very different situation. So it sounds very exciting over there, I must say.
I think also, Joe, the difference is that I don't remember the exact number, Madeleine, in the UK, but the number of universities in the UK is nowhere near. Of course, the population is very different, but I think it was around 100 maybe universities in the country.
So we have something like 139, 140 universities, and then we have colleges who also offer degrees, and that's about a similar number. They don't offer the full range necessarily of degrees, but they tend to be offering in technical areas, or they have a twinning arrangement with a university. The first 2 years are done in a college, then the student will move for the final year to a university. Those sorts of arrangements.
Right.
And we're tiny by comparison to you.
In population, yes.
Yeah, population-wise, but you know what? You make it work with the students that you have, right? That's how it goes. Just a quick shift too, because I'm looking at your website, and I'm all over the website now as we're talking. And one thing that I found, and now I can't get back to it because now the pressure's on me to find it. You have Lucy Enterprise, I think it was called. I would love for you to talk about that, because when we're talking about education, workforce, training, innovation, this is a hub for you.
Sure. Partly indeed because of the students that we wish to attract, to open the door to. We've developed several supplementary programs that make sure they thrive once they are at Cambridge, that they get really good degrees at the end, just as good as those from more privileged backgrounds, and that they go on to get fantastic jobs, just as good as those who have been networked through the family generations. So we look for students with an enterprising mindset. We actually look very carefully when we're interviewing students for evidence of resilience. For students who've tried things out, hasn't gone well, what do they do? What do they change? Did they think again? How did they cope with that? What was the outcome? What did they learn? Because those sorts of qualities help to define the next generation of innovators and entrepreneurs. And then when they have come here, from the first week, we enroll them on a careers and enterprise program, and they have challenges in groups and teams, which are fun, but are always linked to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Even in the first week, the freshers have a task to do in groups in the city of Cambridge. And if you've ever been to our Cambridge rather than your Cambridge, you will know that we do need rather a lot of solutions to traffic, for example. And tourists, but perhaps I shouldn't say that.
Yikes!
So we then offer all sorts of opportunities for all our students, and this includes our postgraduates, who are massively international group of students, including a fair number from the States, to enroll on the program, which runs from November through to March, finishes with a bidding weekend. We have prizes. This is quite straightforward. We have local investors. We have judges from various backgrounds. But what we're really trying to do is to provide an opportunity for students to develop that enterprising mindset, regardless of whether they're going to be founders or not. So whatever they go into on graduation, they bring some of these capabilities to the job. And we find employers like that very much. So that's in a nutshell is the program. We also try to help those students who do want to become founders or to join a startup or a scale-up to navigate the next steps in the Cambridge ecosystem, which is huge. Okay, we're not Silicon Valley and we're not Boston, but we're the next.
Yeah.
And students find it bewildering. There are 30-something accelerators, goodness knows how many incubators, lots of early stage investment available, some with different levels of equity take than others, for example. And how does a graduate really navigate effectively into that and find their way? So we do quite a lot of help with signposting. And then before they graduate, we also have a fund that they can tap into. Again, remembering that most of our students are from very low income backgrounds, where they can go on to a vacation boot camp, or they can go and join a social innovation enterprise event. They can go over to somewhere in Europe and talk to an investor if that's what is indicated. So we provide some resources also behind those who want to consider this path. No obligation, no pressure that you have to go on and do this. But we find employers, particularly in the new areas around biotech and AI, machine learning based new startups and so on, they really like hiring people who have done this kind of thing. So yes, that's part of what we are, and uniquely so in Cambridge. And I have to say, quite a few of our intake have been trading from the back bedroom from the age of 9, 10. They've been hustling on the side. It's been quite important for the family finances that they've done that.
One of the things you're mentioning, Madeleine, it's really interesting because I think it's a discussion since the beginning of times, or at least since the beginning of the first university, which is how do you prepare the students for real life?
Sure.
And there's always this discussion in the US, and I've seen it around the world. You finish a degree, but they're not really ready to get for a job. Of course, that's probably more true in very technical, with very technical degrees and or jobs. But what is the approach of Cambridge, and particularly of your college, to make sure that the students are prepared for real life, for the job?
Yeah, absolutely. Because particularly given the backgrounds of most of our students, and actually our masters, our one-year masters as well, they are focused on this educational experience as a way to the next part of their lives, not just as an end in itself. I've got to Cambridge isn't the end of the story. And that's really important for us to understand. So we survey all students on arrival. We repeat the survey. We, for example, we have a kind of pulse survey system, which tries to map where an individual is in terms of going out and exploring options, beginning to filter down to one or maybe two, and then what they're doing about those. And we repeat that survey so we can see whether the student, at the individual level, we can see if the student is actually engaging with the whole career journey purpose of our college. And if they're not, then we hook them up with the careers service of the university and so on, and they get one-to-one advice and counseling. We weave into that internship, mentoring, work shadowing. We have evenings where people come from industry at different levels, from CEO, which is, big deal, but through to people who graduated like 2 years ago and say, do you know, this is what I thought it was going to be like, but actually it's turned out rather different. And people, for example, who went straight into a lab-based career, let's say with AstraZeneca, one of our main supporters of this college, which we are hugely grateful. But after 5 years, they've tracked into something completely different, to give the idea to our students that careers are fluid, and particularly in these new areas of employment that are opening up. And that, they've got to be thinking about it and not leave it till after they've graduated. But we're there to help them. And we've got shed loads of resources to do that, and a survey that tells us if they're engaged.
Fantastic.
I'm going to close out the episode, but I want to give you a chance. Do you have any final questions for Madeleine before I give her the final two to end the episode?
No, Joe, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure meeting you, Madeleine. And I was very engaged myself because it was so interesting. As I told you, I spent some time close to Cambridge in Oxford, and I've enjoyed it very much. So thank you for having me.
Madeleine, we want to ask you first two questions to end the episode. What didn't we say about Lucy Cavendish College that you want to say? I like to give every guest an open mic moment. No question other than, what do you want to say?
I would have liked you to have asked the benefits for a student from the US coming to do a master's degree in the UK, because we believe that a master's is 1 year in the UK, not 2. And here in Cambridge, and particularly at Lucy Cavendish, we have 85 countries represented.
Amazing.
And it really is an immersive learning experience for the future global leaders. They make networks that will stand them in excellent stead as whatever it is they go on to do, networks right around the world, and friendships, of course, as well as technical expertise and deep knowledge. And I think, so this is a personal view, I think a university such as Cambridge has to be global. And in a period of increasing geopolitical tensions around the world, my generation, we are horrified that there is war in Europe again.
Yeah, I bet.
It was inconceivable to me that there would be war in Europe again. Our parents fought in the Great War, Second World War, grandparents in the Great War. If we are to secure better, more equal sense of inclusion around communities around the world, we think it's vital to keep the channels of communication, of friendship, of cultural understanding open. And for that reason, amongst many others, I would like to say, do come to the UK, or indeed any other country for that matter, do come and make friendships across those differences of background, value, belief, religion, and get to understand where other people are coming from. And we say to our students, you don't stay in Cambridge necessarily, just get out of here, go and see something else, go and study somewhere else, and really understand the benefit of other people's heritages, of the ways that other countries are structured, other economies are structured, because you're going to be leaders. And you've got an awful lot of mess to clear up with regard to our planet, and if nothing else. And you really do need to have that breadth of understanding. I wish you'd asked me about that.
I wish I did too, but you did a great job filling the gap for me by asking yourself that question. That was fantastic. Thank you for saying so. We ask every guest this question, and it's the most important one. What do you see for the future for education?
Globally, locally, in the US?
However you want to answer it. In your context, what do you see for the future?
In our context, I think the future is positive. I think we need to understand better things that are coming towards us, like machine learning and its transformative effects and so on. It may well be overhyped at the moment. Out of it, though, undoubtedly there is going to be benefit to knowledge acquisition, to science and so on. I think part of the future will be more interdisciplinary in higher education terms than the past has been. I think the more diverse we can make higher education, the deeper the learning, the better the research, the more likely solutions from research for society will stick and will be implemented effectively. So I think that's what I would say. Is it easy? No, it isn't. Is it worth doing? Absolutely it is.
Bullseye.
That was an incredible conversation. What did you think, Nuno? I got some takeaways. I know that.
Yeah, I had a great time, a lot of knowledge there, and certainly very interesting to see the differences between both countries. There's just one ocean in the middle, but apparently it's very different.
One of my most favorite things about this episode, you won't get to see it because we only produce the audio, but on the video here, Madeleine said the sun has been coming in and out. So as she's been giving us great advice, it's been going dark on her camera. So it's very ominous. And I've been listening very intently because it's like spotlight. It's very cool. Very cool. Looks like a sunny day out there.
Sure is.
Nuno Fernandez, my guest co-host today. He is the president of the American Public University System. Nuno, thanks for coming on the mic today.
Thank you very much.
And ladies and gentlemen, my esteemed guest, she is amazing. Now she's gonna be my new best friend, I can already tell. Here she is. She is Professor Dame Madeleine Atkins. She's the president of Lucy Cavendish College. And she's winding up her day now out there in the UK. But I have to ask Madeleine, how'd you enjoy your experience here on EdUp?
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. It's a real privilege to be able to talk about Cambridge and to talk about Lucy Cavendish. And Nuno, what an honor to meet you. I really appreciate that opportunity too.
The honor is all mine.
What I can tell you both here as we end this episode is now you're connected on the same email that we scheduled this. So it's up to you to stay in touch. And ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd.
Oh, yeah.
The Middle States Commission on Higher Education 2023 Annual Conference is in Philadelphia, December 4th through 6th. Setting the standard, transformation through accreditation. Remember, only you can create transformation through networking, knowledge sharing, opportunity, leadership, service, learning, and accreditation. And you'll do all those things at the Middle States Commission on Higher Education Annual Conference this December 4th through 6th. Can't wait to be there. EdUp will be there. There's going to be over 1,300 attendees, presidents, provosts. The networking opportunities are off the chain. Register now at msche.org.
Oh, yeah.
Attention higher ed marketing and enrollment management professionals. We are taking the EdUp Experience podcast to Insights EDU. Join us at Insights EDU on February 20th to 22nd, 2024 in Phoenix, Arizona. Gain insight into the latest higher education trends and cutting-edge marketing strategies that'll take your institution's enrollment to a whole new level. This is your opportunity to connect with higher education leaders and marketing experts from across the country. Comprehensive presentations, engaging panel discussions, and more. Insights EDU will equip you to position your institution for growth. Register now at insightsedu.com and use the code EdUp to save $50 off your registration. Can you afford to miss this conference?
I don't think so.